So let's stop this.
Yep. I just wanted to show that.
All right.
So that's
now let's make a note of now.
This is a copyright infringement.
Here on out is legal. I think that we have witnessed history as of yesterday. Mean Girls was completely snubbed in the Tonys. And if I am correct, they are tied for the biggest snub at the Tonys.
Did you do research on this?
I did a little bit of research.
All right.
I did not do incredibly extensive research.
I didn't do any.
I did a little bit of research.
And what did you find out? Who were they tied with?
Found out Mean Girls ties the Scottsboro Boys, which went 0 for 12 in 2011 as the most nominated show to go home empty-handed in a single year, according to The Hollywood Reporter.
That's dumb.
I'm citing my sources, so in case I'm wrong, I'm not the one who gets in trouble.
I wonder if the Scottsboro Boys was as good as Mean Girls.
I doubt it.
Probably not. Usually there are reasons that people go home empty-handed, but this one I can't find one.
Like, I get why the Band's Visit won Best Musical. I don't get why they won everything. I don't think they should have won everything.
No.
I think they were nominated for 11 and
They were nominated for 11 and won 10. So lots of them I can't really pass judgment on because I haven't seen the show, especially since, so on the acting ones, then only half an hour of the show was singing, and Tony Shalhoub, who won Best Actor in a Musical, only sings for maybe 5 of those minutes. And so the majority of what he does, I haven't even experienced. So, and then all of the technical elements, I have no idea what they were like. But I just love Mean Girls.
I think, so the Band's Visit is clearly, I guess, I don't know the best way to put it, but like the Band's Visit is, for lack of a better term, a more quote unquote like adult show / grown up show.
Right. The message is catered to a more mature mind.
Yeah. It's like, take SpongeBob. It's, a kid's show.
Right.
So the musical is going to be very kid-like.
Right.
Still, I'm impressed how much they managed to, be serious about it, though.
Right.
Similar thing with Mean Girls is, still an older audience than SpongeBob, of course, but still not quite,
Band's
adult.
Visit.
Right,
Yeah.
and then Band's Visit is just the more older.
And Frozen just...
I mean, yeah. Who cares about Frozen?
Right. A few people, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably the people who wrote it.
I think they probably knew going in that they were going out empty.
Yeah.
But...
especially only being nominated for 3 things.
Mm-hmm. But Mean Girls, I'm sure they weren't expecting that at all.
No, I would have... I mean... fine, you don't win the big 3, give them all to Band's Visit, that's fine. But and all the actor ones, too,
Yeah.
it's just because you have a good musical doesn't mean you have to give all the acting awards to the people who win Best Musical.
Yeah. Which normally doesn't happen.
Yeah,
I mean, it happened with Hamilton.
See, okay, Hamilton makes sense.
Because...
I understand why Hamilton won everything.
Because it deserved everything.
Right. Hamilton was... amazing, and it was even if you had no idea what any musicals were, you knew what Hamilton was.
Right.
It was that big.
And it still is. So, it deserved what it got.
And even Dear Evan Hansen also was a really big show.
Right. And I still don't think they deserved as many as they got, but I won't go into that now. Wonderful show, but
even then, lots of people had heard about Dear Evan Hansen.
Right.
And I don't think anyone has heard about The Band's Visit.
I didn't think it would be one of those musicals that runs forever. I thought I could foresee it being just one that opens, some people like it, and then it closes.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how long it'll run now that it's won so many awards.
I hope it stops being on Broadway very soon.
And then gets replaced by something really cool, like a revival of
Mean Girls.
Yeah, because Mean Girls will probably close pretty soon.
Yeah.
Unless it gets attention for not getting any wins.
Hey.
They're like, 12 nominations and 0 wins. We've got to see what's up. Let's go see Mean Girls.
And then it's amazing.
Right.
Well,
and
except
then,
that means it's going to not go on tour as soon.
Well, no, the tour is set.
Oh, it is
for
already?
2019.
Oh, okay.
So they'd better not cancel the tour.
Do they ever tour a show while it's still on Broadway?
Phantom of the Opera, definitely.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
Except for it's a different production, if that makes sense.
What do you mean?
Like, so normally with a touring show, it's on Broadway and then it closes, but that's often the same cast, but it's the same choreography, same set and everything that goes on tour.
Oh, okay.
So it's a touring Broadway show.
They pick up their stuff from Broadway
Right,
and
and
hop
then
over
just
to...
put it on a truck and drive
Gotcha.
to Kansas
Okay.
and elsewhere. But with Phantom of the Opera, so on Broadway, then it's been playing the same choreography, same sets since the 80s. But then the tour, it's a new production, new sets, new directing choices. They could do that because it's a new show going on a new tour.
Gotcha. I am honestly really surprised that Phantom of the Opera has been on Broadway for so long. Not because it's like, not a good musical, but just the fact that any show has been on Broadway for that long.
Right.
It's like, that's almost like 30, 40 years.
Yeah. But I think what it is because it's been on Broadway for so long, it just is the New York thing. It's a mainstay. It's a staple of New York. And so people that don't know anything about theater, they go to New York and they're like, Phantom of the Opera.
Mm-hmm.
And then...
Which I think is not the best introduction to musical theater.
Right. Because it's a weird show.
Yeah.
Maybe go see Mean Girls.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. Which theater is the Phantom of the Opera theater?
It's called I've seen the theater. I've been there, but the name escapes me.
I'm sure we could just call it the Phantom of the Opera Theater, because
That's
that's
probably
what it's been since 80... When was it written? 85, 84? Something like that?
1885.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah. 1976.
Is when Phantom was
whoops.
written?
Nope.
Okay.
That's the So there's Phantom of the Opera, a musical in 1976 by Ken Hill.
Oh, yes.
But the Andrew Lloyd Webber, there's also Phantom, that's an American musical that was like 1985 or something.
Mm-hmm.
But Phantom of the Opera, Andrew Lloyd Webber, 1986.
Okay.
Currently playing in
On Broadway.
the Majestic Theater. That's what I was thinking.
Okay.
But that's also a movie theater in the area, and so I was like, am I just thinking about the movie theater?
It's also a really good name for a movie theater, and it's a very common one.
So, the Majestic Theater on Broadway, right next to the theater where Anastasia is playing right now.
Would you consider Phantom of the Opera to be majestic?
Yes.
Okay.
Would you?
I don't know if I'd say it's majestic. Like, majestic in my mind has a very, regal kind of undertone to it. Because, majesty. Right. Majestic.
And in London, it's at Her Majesty's Theatre, which is funny.
That is funny.
But
I don't think there's anything in Phantom of the Opera that's kingly.
I do.
More.
I mean, the swell at the end of Music of the Night, that's the most majestic thing I've ever heard.
Okay.
And because he made himself the king of the theater.
Right.
But not in a respected way.
Right.
Like a feared,
it's like
creepy
a
way.
disrespect.
Right. But opera is majestic.
Yeah, but Phantom of the Opera isn't an opera.
No, but it's about opera.
Whoa. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, all right.
I'd say it's majestic.
Okay.
At least in part. Not completely. I mean,
I'd give it a 6 out of 10 on the majestic scale.
Okay.
Now, The King and I is majestic.
That's majestic. It's
I actually don't know a thing about that.
I was in
Other-
The King and I, so it hasn't aged well. There's
What do you mean by that?
well, especially the production we did. It was so the whole school was white, and the play is set in Siam.
Oh.
And there was a scene where they the Siamese wives of the king perform a scene from Uncle Tom's Cabin. And so it's these white high school students playing Siamese concubines in blackface. So
Okay.
it was interesting.
Huh. Is that show still around?
There's a touring production right now.
And how is that touring production?
They might have edited it.
Okay.
But
'Cause I don't think that's really gonna
know,
get a whole
like,
lot of
yeah.
positive attention.
yeah. But it's a good show. Rodgers and Hammerstein, they did a good job. There's whistling in it.
Huh.
Love, death, all your good stuff. And it's based on a true story.
There's no whistling
Like
in Les
Mean
Mis.
Girls. Does Gavroche ever whistle? He seems like a whistling kind of
Oh,
guy.
he does seem. Oh, does he ever whistle? I don't think he does.
He should.
He.
We should rewrite
Hmm.
Les Mis where Gavroche only whistles. If I did direct a production of Les Mis, I've had this idea in my head of I dreamed a dream having, so Fantine is like at the edge of the stage dying and sad and dirty. But then on the stage, in silhouette, is a ballet
Oh.
of her life.
That would be beautiful.
Right. With the man coming and leaving, and then she's alone, and I don't know. I think it would be really
Oh
gorgeous.
my goodness! Why has no one done that?
Because I haven't directed a production of Les Mis yet.
Well, get on it.
I will. Once our podcast gets going and we get money, then
That's true.
well, next step is directing Les Mis.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only reason to do a podcast, right? Is to make money.
Right.
I think it's a really viable career.
Yeah, for people that are already famous. But
Well, we just need to get famous.
there we go. Get us famous, listeners.
You can be famous by directing a performance of Les Mis.
Right. Just give me a cast and a budget, and I've got you covered.
I think I can give you $5.
I got $5 from my dad today. That's 10.
I think you can do a show off of that.
Yeah, in your garage.
I mean, all you need is you
And
just
then-
need to find a bunch of really talented people who are willing to offer their services for free.
There we go.
Yeah, and then you just keep the $10.
And then there you go. Get a sandwich.
Yeah. All right, some more
Okay.
things that I want to rant about at the Tonys. This isn't really necessarily a rant so much as I'm just bitter at the band's visit, and so I'm probably never going to like it again in my life. So I'm quoting from CBS News. Producer Orrin Wolf accepted the award of Best Musical and said, "In The Band's Visit, music gives people hope and makes borders disappear. Although the characters are strangers to each other with great political divide, our show offers a message of unity in a world that more and more seems bent on amplifying our differences. In the end, we are more alike than we are different." So, that
Part of that is good.
right,
Like the unity in a world where we amplify our differences. I like that. But also providing hope and breaking borders. I don't know if that happens.
right. So this there would be a great musical if a musical did those things.
Right.
And again, to be fair, I have not seen the musical, but he specifically says in The Band's Visit, music gives people hope and makes borders disappear. And I don't think I got that sense from the music
Right.
at all.
Because borders disappear maybe. Like with Omar Sharif, they're bonding over this actor.
Right, but that's not like a bond. That's not like I don't think that's the kind of borders he's talking about when he says making borders disappear. I think he's saying, different cultures, different
They were there for a day and then
nations.
they never saw them again.
Right.
Like, that didn't change anything.
And the only border that is like broken or overcome in Omar Sharif is the bonding between two strangers,
Right.
not necessarily the
Strangers
bonding,
who won Tony Awards.
right, not necessarily the bonding between Israel and Egypt.
Right.
So, yeah. And then the characters are strangers to each other with great political divide. I mean, that is probably true, but I definitely did not get a single ounce of that feeling from the musical, or from the music. It seemed like they were all best friends by about song number 3.
Yep.
And then they left.
Right, and especially because it specifically said that music is what's breaking the borders.
Right.
We've only heard the music, but if that's what was doing it, then I don't know how.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I feel like the concert would do more to break barriers and unite people than unite different nationalities and cultures than the day in the city that they shouldn't be in, because that just kind of made me mad, because I was like, okay, is that the best you can do? Like, I'm sure that's what you think your musical is doing, but it didn't do that for me. But maybe I'll watch it when it goes on tour, and then, or maybe I'll just win the lottery and then go watch it on Broadway,
or just boycott it.
Right. But maybe I'll see it and then change my mind, but How many Broadway theaters are there?
At least 4.
Because I feel like there's a lot of shows that are always like on Broadway.
Yeah. Let's go with a little search. Broadway theater.
Maybe we'll talk about Stravinsky today. Okay, so Stravinsky. Let's talk about Stravinsky.
Yeah.
All right. Igor Stravinsky was born in Russia, and he moved to America, and he died in America. And
that's what I did,
no.
minus the Russia part and the death.
Actually,
I was just born
maybe
in
he
America.
died in Italy. I think he's buried in Italy. I don't know where he died, though.
I don't know. I've only ever been to America, and so it's weird for me to think about being buried in a different country than I was born in, or even being in a different country than I was born in. But he was a cool guy.
He was.
Tell us about Stravinsky, Hayden.
So I'm going to put a disclaimer right here that I am not a music historian, I'm not a Igor Stravinsky historian, and I'm not a music theorist, but I like Stravinsky, and I like music theory, and I like music.
You're definitely more experienced and knowledgeable than I am about these topics.
So you can just agree with everything I say, and then if I say something, I am likely going to say something that's wrong or misleading or a simplification.
So don't sue us.
Right.
Maybe just give us money.
Yeah.
To become more well-read.
Right, exactly.
You were right. He died in New York and was buried in Italy.
Okay, that is weird to me. I don't think he ever lived in Italy.
Yeah. I wouldn't let anyone take my body, like, more than a few miles.
I mean, it would be cool to be buried in Italy, I guess.
But I don't know if I don't have a reason to be married. Buried. Buried in Italy. Married in Italy. That would be cool, too.
My cousin got married in Italy.
Oh. Why?
Because it's a cool place.
Just a destination wedding
I
that none of
guess.
your family goes to without breaking the bank?
I guess. I don't know.
Bad idea. Don't do that.
Okay, I won't.
Okay, thank you.
So, Stravinsky. We'll get around to talking about him eventually.
So the specific pieces that we were listening to, or at least I listened to, were his ballets, The Firebird and The Rite of Spring, and then his arrangement of Happy Birthday, which were all really good.
Yes.
I am impressed at how he can write lots of different styles, and they all sound good. Like some composers, they just have this niche, but he has the beautiful, like, flowing passages as well as, like, the agitated dances, and then The Owl and the Pussycat.
Right. He also, for a little while, had a neoclassical phase. I don't know any of his music from that era,
Mhm.
but I'm sure it was great.
Hmm.
That was in between his Russian phase and then his, I don't even know what you'd call his third phase, when he did 12-tone music and stuff.
His weird phase.
Yeah.
Let's start with the Firebird.
Okay.
That was the first. He was commissioned to write 3 ballets for a season of, or different seasons of ballet in Paris. So the first one was the Firebird, the second one was Petrushka, and then the third one was the Rite of Spring. I haven't listened to Petrushka.
I've listened to a very little bit of Petrushka.
But the Firebird, it's
A bird
the
that's on fire.
So the Tsar goes Prince Ivan goes hunting, and then he meets the Firebird, and he's gonna capture her, but then she's like, "Let me go," and then he's like, "Okay, fine," and then she gives him a magical feather in return for sparing her life, and then it can call her whenever he needs her. And so then he meets the evil sorcerer, and then they are fighting, but then he's like, "Firebird, come help me," because the sorcerer had like kidnapped a lot of people. One of them was a woman who Ivan falls in love with, and so he's like, "I need this girl in my life, and if she's being held captive, I can't have this girl in my life. Firebird, get me this girl." And so then the Firebird comes, there's like a battle, or she makes the sorcerer's men dance wildly till they collapse or die, and then everyone is freed.
So I actually didn't know any of the story of the Firebird.
Wow, I was expecting to come in here and be like, I know little bits of this, and then you just knew everything else. But
No, I mean I like the music.
yeah,
But I don't know anything about the story.
because I've heard the Firebird suite. There's just like 7 minutes or something of the Firebird.
Well, so you have the Firebird suite, which I think is like half an hour.
Oh, well,
And
yeah,
then you
yeah.
have,
But then
or maybe it's the whole ballet is half an hour.
No. The whole ballet is 50 minutes.
Okay, so you have the Firebird suite, which is like
The
kind
half
of
an hour.
It's like half an hour condensed.
That's
version.
what I listened to. But before
Yeah.
I've heard the it was a reduction for concert band. Yeah, I've heard a concert band version, and so I was familiar with some of the passages. But then hearing them in context and then with the story, it was really cool to hear that. So like all of everything that happened, it was like, oh, this is where like they're fighting, and this is where everyone's waking up, and it was really cool. And right at the end, when everything is like coming back to life, getting freed, it's a very majestic moment. It reminded me of the end of Beauty and the Beast, when everything's waking up and becoming human again, and then there's like long sweeping passages.
Yeah.
Strawinski did it first and did it better. But
He did do it better. This has got to be one of the greatest endings to anything ever.
Okay, tell me
Um,
why.
It's actually, there's a couple cool things about it. One, this is kind of hard to do without the sheet music, but
Mhm.
I'll do my best to explain. One thing that I find very interesting that Stravinsky loves to do is he loves to do kind of like patterny things, which, all composers do patterny
Right.
things, but he does them in very interesting ways. Like, for example, he'll take the length of notes, specifically the bass note in the ending of the Firebird, when it's the bum 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 fast and
Mhm.
big and loud and
Yeah.
amazing. The bass note alternates between a B and an F sharp, I think, but the rate at which it alternates changes. So
Uh-huh.
it gets slowly faster and faster.
Slowly faster. That's interesting.
It does, because it starts out it's like seven or eight counts,
Mhm.
and then every time it switches, it goes shorter and shorter,
Uh-huh.
and then it's like it does like a dotted half note, then a half note, then another half note, and then the last time it's just every quarter note
Uh-huh.
going back and forth. So it's just really cool, because you don't ever think about it. It's just one of those things
Uh-huh.
that you just, unless you're listening for it,
Right.
you don't hear it.
But your mind picks up on it
Mhm.
subconsciously and likes it, and
Yeah.
so that's why you like Stravinsky.
And it makes it much more, it makes it much broader and much more grandiose at the
Mhm.
end, because you've just kind of had this bass has just kind of been coming along, and it's at kind of odd times, because it's not necessarily on the downbeat because it's just based on a number of counts.
Yeah.
And then it comes in at the last time, and it's just every quarter note is huge and fat and amazing. It's also really cool because I think it's the second horn part, maybe either the second or third horn part. It might be the third horn part. Is the exact same note every time, and for some reason I just really love that. It's just like bum 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 bum, and it would just be so cool just to like play that because it's just like, I don't know, I love that sort of thing when you're just doing something really simple, but it's just like amazing, and there's just this huge thing coming around like around you together, and it's just like, it's amazing. Also, it's easier.
Right. Have you played the Firebird?
I have
before?
not.
Okay.
I want to at some point.
Neither have I. I think I might have sight read it once in band.
Yeah, I think I did too. What do you think of the Firebird?
I really enjoy it. I love in the suite at least, then each little movement thing switches back and forth between a name of something and then a pantomime, and the pantomimes are all very slow, and they're just softer and more delicate. But then the other ones are grander or more intense and stuff. So it's really cool to see it switch back and forth like that. So the Firebird's theme, do you know what instrument it is?
The theme, what do you mean?
There's one part of it, I actually don't know if it is the Firebird's theme, but it's a really pretty bit. I don't know if it's an oboe or an English horn or something.
Oh, it's a French horn, actually. If we're thinking of the same spot. Is it toward the end? The da na 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 dum bum.
No, not
okay.
that.
That's
it's
a
early.
French horn.
Okay, that's a French horn. That's easier to tell. But woodwinds are harder to differentiate, at least for me. It's earlier. It's in one of the pantomimes. It's really sweet, but it's a good melody, and I think it's the oboe. I really like the oboe.
If it sounds like an oboe, it's either an oboe or an English horn.
Right. Right.
Or a really weird combination of like a clarinet and violin.
Yeah. But I'm pretty sure it's an oboe.
Okay.
And they do it really well.
I also love Strawinski. This is much more evident in The Rite of Spring, but he does it in Firebird as well. He loves weird time signatures. And I also love weird time signatures.
Same.
What's it called? The dance, the fire dance or whatever. The super intense one. It's like a couple songs before the end. I don't remember the name of it.
I know what you're talking. The Sorcerer's Dance.
Probably. It's the big fight scene.
Infernal Dance.
Infernal Dance. Like fire or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That one is in a lot of weird time signatures, and I can't figure it out. Yeah. And that is actually really cool.
It would be really fun to look at the sheet music for this and figure out what's going on.
Yeah. And the end is in 7/4, which is an amazing time signature.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a more favorite time signature than 7. I guess
7,
7/4,
7, 8,
7,
yeah,
2, if you want. 7 is a really good number. 5/4 is also cool, but not as cool.
Right. I like 5/4, but it's hard to do a 5/4 that isn't just like split up into 3 and 2.
Right.
That really is the 5.
Although it was done really well. The entire song is not in 5/4. It goes back and forth. The opener to Pictures at an Exhibition by Mussorgsky.
Right. I was listening to that in the car today.
A lot of it's in 5/4, and it's a very true 5/4. It's not split up into 3 and 2. Also, I love that suite. It's easily my favorite composition ever is Pictures at an Exhibition.
Your favorite composition ever? That's a big thing to say.
No, hands down. Yeah.
Wow.
It is really, really, really amazing.
I was listening to so it came on the radio, and then they were talking about a rock band in the 70s that did like a rock version of it.
Interesting.
But then so I was like, that sounds interesting. So I turned it on because I really like it when like they mix classical and rock and stuff because people do that a lot. But it was really bad.
Oh.
It was really boring. It was just like electric guitar and then a snare drum playing the same rhythm.
Oh.
And I was like, you could be doing a lot more with that. So let's segue into Rite of Spring.
Oh yeah. So speaking of Russian composers, Stravinsky is a Russian composer. And
Right.
speaking of Stravinsky,
So the third opera in that series was The Rite of Spring,
Ballet.
and it's a weird show. Ballet. They're actually
an
not
opera.
operas. Surprise. There's no singing in them, actually. It's just instruments. Yeah, it's a weird ballet,
it's a weird ballet.
but in a really good way.
Yeah.
I was listening to it today, and and reading like the synopsis of what was happening, and I was getting really freaked out, which is good when music can make me freak out, because I was like getting scared,
Mhm.
and good on you, Stravinsky, for scaring me.
I actually don't know the whole story, but the general idea
It's kind of really simple.
yeah, is that there's some group of people. Every spring, they sacrifice a maiden to some
They're
their
pagan
gods, I guess.
Yeah.
And is that basically the whole?
That's
plot of
really
the
it.
thing?
So it starts with they come out and the maidens are dancing, and then a lady comes out and starts telling the future. I wonder how they do that as a ballet. To tell the future.
Yeah.
I don't know. Interesting. But then the rest of the village comes out, and then they start to like fight. But then like the elders come out and are like, "Okay, let's just focus our energy to welcoming spring." And then the girls do a dance to decide which girl is going to be sacrificed, and then she dances for the old men until she dies.
Yeah, and that's how it ends, isn't it?
Yep.
The end is, it's a very, almost like earthy, like just raw and like,
Mm-hmm.
but the end, it just ends very much that way.
Yeah.
Because it's her dancing to her to her
Yeah,
death.
exactly.
There's lots of like vertical motion and like pounding into the ground kind
Yep.
of thing with
Yep.
this dance,
Mhm.
and you totally get that feel from the music.
Yeah.
And it's very well done.
I read the synopsis and I was like, how is this going to be an entire ballet? But then I listened to it and I was like, the music, it just did so much in a really simple way. And I really liked that. And so speaking of like the earthy feel, one of the productions, they actually covered the stage in dirt. And so
That's genius.
And so they're dancing in like just on the ground, and so by the end they're like sweaty and like covered in dirt, but like they have become one with the earth, and it's really symbolic.
Amazing.
Yeah. I think it was in the 70s they did a production that's actually become really famous. It's been this specific iteration has been performed many times since, but instead of doing it with the Russian pagan culture, it's with Native Americans.
Okay.
Which makes a lot
I can
of sense.
see that. Yeah, I can totally see that.
I think it's really cool. I heard beeping.
Was that like? It sounded like it was coming from over there. Was it not?
Was it my keys? Oh, yeah, it was my keys. Opening night of Rite of Spring. Do you know about this?
Opening night is in like
Like the very first
the
time it was
grand opening
performed.
night.
Yeah.
I think I know about. I know some of the stuff surrounding that.
So like it started and like even as soon as like the music started, it was so different and like that. So there were people that were starting to like laugh because it's people that are the people that go to the
Mhm.
ballet grand premiere, the people that go to ballets every night,
Right.
and they are very familiar with music and how it
It's
should
all
be.
very posh and
Right. But
yeah.
then if they do something weird, then it's like, that's dumb.
Mhm.
But, and then people, they came out and started dancing, and it's very earthy and rhythmic and pounding, and which is totally not what they came to see.
Right.
So like Stravinsky, Firebird, oh, that's very posh.
Yeah.
But then, and then they see like these like pagan villagers sacrificing women, and they're like, whoa. And so it was like a riot basically.
Yeah.
And,
I have heard about that.
Some sources say that the police got involved and like had made people leave, but then like Stravinsky himself, he was there, and so he was like, it couldn't have gone better.
Yeah.
Because like the audience is just like shouting, and like I would love to have seen that, an audience react like that so strongly to a work.
Yeah, that I'm just fascinated by that because it's a very, to Stravinsky's point, is exactly what he was going for. Not necessarily maybe the rioting, but he was going for this is different and this is not posh. It's very like the opposite of posh.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that is happening with music, or what I guess is happening as in like started 100 years ago, and it's still happening with music, is that it's just, and has kind of always happened with music, but much more so in the last 100 years. It's just evolving, and there's a million different kinds of things with music, and there's a bunch of different styles and genres, and things just kind of pop up. And then you know, you had 12-tone music was really big for a while, and then you had minimalism is, I guess, still a little bit big, but it was a really big movement. And I'm not actually sure kind of what music is doing right now.
Yeah. We'll wait and see what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Stravinsky was really instrumental in starting all of that. So it was like Stravinsky and then Bernstein and then other people. One thing about Stravinsky is when he was writing Rite of Spring, he did it over like a winter, which is funny. At the end, he did a piano reduction for 4 hands and then performed it with Claude Debussy. To like promote it or whatever.
That's awesome.
Which I think is really cool that like these big names knew each other. And
well, and you think Debussy and Rite of Spring are like on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Exactly, yeah.
Because you have Clair de Lune and Rite of Spring.
Right.
Like
totally not the same. Well, anyway, next week we're going to be talking about...
Let's talk more about like kind of Russian composers and that sort of thing.
Okay, so next week we're going to branch out from Stravinsky to other Russian composers such as
Tchaikovsky.
Ooh, I love Tchaikovsky.
So lots of interesting things about Tchaikovsky.
Right.
So
yeah, Tchaikovsky,
Rimsky-Korsakov.
Rimsky-Korsakov.
Yep.
You're better at the Russian names.
And
Modest something.
Yeah,
Gorsky. Yeah.
And there's a lot of interesting kind of... There's an interesting dynamic kind of with all these contemporary composers that is really interesting that we will talk about next week.
Yeah.
So
look
now you have a
forward to that.
cliffhanger, so you have
There
to
you go.
listen.